I grew up in Kansas, a state where the vast fields stretch endlessly toward the horizon, the corn swaying gently in the breeze. Life as a farmer often feels simple. Wake up at dawn, tend to the crops, and watch the sun sink behind the hills as the stars emerge. But beneath this calm surface lies a world of unsettling tales that my fellow farmers and I often whisper about on cold, moonlit nights. Here is one such story that has haunted me for years. It was a hot July evening, and the sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields. I was finishing up my chores, the familiar sounds of the farm surrounding me, the clucking of the chickens, the distant mooing of cows, and the rustle of the wind through the corn stalks. But something felt off that night, a chill in the air that I couldn't shake. As I wrapped up for the day, I noticed the lights from the old barn flickering erratically. I brushed it off as a faulty bulb, but deep down, I felt an unsettling tingle run down my spine. The barn had always been a bit creepy, especially at night, with its creaking wood and the shadows that danced inside like restless spirits. Against my better judgment, I decided to investigate. Armed with nothing but a flashlight, I made my way across the gravel path, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the stillness. Each step felt heavier than the last as I approached the barn, and I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against me. As I pushed open the heavy barn door, a wave of musty air washed over me. I swept the beam of my flashlight across the interior, revealing the familiar sights of hay bales stacked in the corner and tools hanging from the walls. But as I looked closer, I noticed something strange. The shadows in the barn seemed to twist and turn unnaturally, as if they had a life of their own. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but just then, I heard a soft, whispering sound. It was faint but distinct, like someone calling out from the farthest corner of the barn. My heart raced as I strained to listen, trying to make out the words. "Help me." The voice was barely above a whisper, but it sent chills through me. I hesitated, torn between the urge to run and the instinct to help. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. "Is someone there?" Silence enveloped the barn, and for a moment I thought I'd imagined it. But then, the whispering returned, this time louder and more urgent. "Help me, please." Against my better judgment, I stepped deeper into the barn, following the sound. My flashlight flickered as I moved, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The air felt thick and suffocating, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. As I reached the far corner, I saw something, a figure, hunched over, shrouded in darkness. My breath caught in my throat as I squinted, trying to make out what it was. It looked like a person, but the way they moved was unnatural, almost like they were gliding rather than walking. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, though my voice was barely above a whisper. The figure turned slowly, and I caught a glimpse of its face. It was pale, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I wanted to run, to escape the barn and never look back, but I was rooted in place, paralyzed by fear. "Help me," it repeated, its voice echoing in my mind. Suddenly the lights flickered again, brighter this time, and I saw the figure clearer. It was a woman, her clothes tattered and her hair unkempt. The sight of her sent a jolt of panic through me. Who was she? How did she get here? "Please help me," she begged again, reaching out toward me with a trembling hand. Before I could respond, the barn door slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang, plunging the room into darkness. The flashlight flickered out, leaving me in pitch blackness. I felt a surge of adrenaline and spun around, desperately trying to find a way out. "Let me out! Let me out!" I shouted, pounding on the door, my heart racing. But the door wouldn't budge. It felt as if some unseen force was holding it shut, trapping me inside with the figure. I turned back, my eyes straining to adjust to the darkness. I could feel her presence nearby, her breath cold against my skin. "Why won't you help me?" she wailed, her voice laced with anguish. "Who are you?" I shouted back, fear spilling into my voice. "What do you want?" "I can't leave," she cried, her tone filled with despair. "You must help me break the curse." "Curse?" I echoed, my mind racing. What was she talking about? Suddenly, the barn was filled with a blinding light, illuminating every corner, and I saw the shadows shifting again. They grew more pronounced, coiling around her like a dark mist. The woman screamed, her voice piercing the air, and I felt the very ground beneath me tremble. In that moment, my instincts kicked in, and I lunged for the door again, pounding with all my strength. Miraculously, it swung open, and I stumbled out into the night, gasping for air. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of my house. I slammed the door shut behind me, my heart racing as I leaned against it, trying to process what had just happened. The image of that woman haunted me for days, her hollow eyes and desperate pleas echoing in my mind. I tried to convince myself it was just a hallucination, a trick of the dark, but deep down, I knew it was something far more sinister. I didn't dare return to the barn, and for weeks, I avoided it, keeping the windows boarded up and the doors locked tight. But the shadows in my fields grew longer, and the whispers lingered in the air, a constant reminder of that night. The fear of what I might encounter in the dark kept me awake, and soon I realized that this was just the beginning of a series of terrifying experiences that would change my life forever. As summer turned to fall, the long days of harvest began, but the unease lingered in the air. I thought the busy work of gathering crops would distract me from the chilling encounter in the barn, but it only seemed to amplify the sense of dread that had settled in my heart. The whispers had faded, but a strange melody began to weave itself into my days, a haunting tune that echoed across the fields. It started one crisp morning as I was plowing the east field. The sun was just rising, casting a golden hue over the landscape. I could hear the distant sound of the wind, rustling through the leaves, but soon enough it became something more, a melody, sweet yet sorrowful, floating through the air. I paused my tractor, straining to listen. The tune was beautiful, but it tugged at something deep within me, a sense of longing that felt almost tangible. At first, I thought it might be a trick of the wind or perhaps a neighbor's radio, but as the days went by, the melody persisted. It would come at the most unexpected times, luring me away from my work, beckoning me to follow its call. I found myself wandering through the fields, searching for the source of the sound, but it always seemed to elude me, dancing just beyond my reach. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of oranges and purples, I decided to follow the melody. I had been working late, and the fields were bathed in twilight. The haunting notes wrapped around me like a spell, pulling me deeper into the heart of the cornfield. I lost track of time, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation as I walked further into the dense rows of corn. As I moved along the narrow paths, I began to feel a strange sensation, a tugging at the edges of my mind, as if the melody was trying to tell me something. I stopped and closed my eyes, allowing the music to envelop me. The world faded away, and for a brief moment I was lost in the rhythm. But then I opened my eyes and realized how far I had wandered. That's when I saw it. Standing at the edge of the field was a figure, illuminated by the last rays of the setting sun. It was a woman, dressed in a flowing white gown that shimmered like moonlight. Her long hair cascaded down her back, and she stood with an ethereal grace, swaying gently as if in tune with the melody. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling as I took a step closer. She turned to me, her eyes glistening with an otherworldly light. "I am the keeper of this land," she said softly, her voice like the wind rustling through the trees. "I have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" I echoed, confused. "The melody has called to you, hasn't it?" she asked, her gaze piercing through me. "You are meant to listen." The gravity of her words sank in, and I felt a chill race down my spine. "What do you want from me?" "The land is in pain," she replied, her expression somber. "The curse of the barn binds it, and only you can break it." The realization hit me like a thunderclap. The woman from the barn, was she connected to this ethereal figure? "What curse? What do you mean?" "The shadows that haunt your fields and your heart, they must be set free," she said, her voice growing more urgent. "You must face the darkness to find the light." I hesitated, fear gripping me. "I don't know how to do that." "Follow the melody," she whispered, her form beginning to fade. "It will guide you." In an instant, she vanished, leaving me alone in the twilight. The melody lingered in the air, a whisper of hope mingled with despair. I stood there for what felt like hours, trying to comprehend what had just happened. My heart raced with fear and confusion, but a spark of determination ignited within me. If there was a curse, then I had to find a way to break it. The melody became my guide, leading me back to the barn. With each step, I felt the shadows creeping around me, wrapping their cold tendrils around my heart. But I pressed on, knowing I had to confront whatever lay within. As I reached the barn, the door stood ajar, creaking softly in the night air. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I might find inside. The melody swelled, urging me forward, and I stepped inside. The familiar musty scent filled my nostrils, but the atmosphere felt charged, electric with anticipation. "Is anyone here?" I called out, my voice echoing in the darkness. There was no answer, but the shadows danced around me, forming shapes that twisted and turned, echoing the fear that had haunted me since that first encounter. I moved deeper into the barn, the melody growing louder, enveloping me in its haunting embrace. Suddenly, the light flickered on, illuminating the space, and I saw her, the woman from the shadows, trapped in the corner. "You've returned," she said, her voice filled with both relief and desperation. "I'm here to help," I replied, though my heart raced with fear. "But I need to know what the curse is." "The curse binds me to this land," she whispered, her eyes reflecting a deep sorrow. "I was wronged in life, and now my spirit is trapped, unable to find peace. The shadows are my memories, my regrets. You must confront them to free me." With her words hanging heavy in the air, I knew what I had to do. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, letting the melody wash over me. I envisioned the shadows surrounding me, transforming from menacing figures into wisps of smoke, each carrying a fragment of her past. "Show me," I whispered, summoning the courage to face the darkness. As if in response, the shadows coiled around me, swirling and shifting until they formed images from the past. A glimpse of a young girl laughing, a family gathering, and then darkness. A figure loomed large, a man with rage in his eyes, and I felt a wave of sorrow and fear wash over me. "Who is he?" I gasped, recognizing the pain etched on her face. "He was my captor," she said, her voice trembling. "In life, I was taken from my home, imprisoned in this barn. My spirit lingers here, chained by the memories of my suffering." The shadows surged, and I could feel the weight of her pain pressing down on me. "You must release me," she urged, her voice a haunting whisper. "Only then will the land be free." With every ounce of strength I could muster, I reached out to the shadows, willing them to disperse. The melody swelled, echoing through the barn, and I could feel the tension in the air shifting. The shadows began to swirl, twisting and turning, and as they did, I saw the woman's face light up with hope. "Thank you," she whispered, her form starting to dissolve into the light. "You've set me free." In a brilliant flash, the shadows erupted, and the barn was filled with a warm, radiant light. I shielded my eyes, feeling the weight of the darkness lifting. When the light finally faded, I looked around, and the barn was transformed. It felt alive, the air fresh and vibrant, as if a burden had been lifted from the land. As I stepped outside, I was met by the cool night air, the stars twinkling overhead. The melody faded into the night, replaced by the soft rustle of the wind through the fields. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing I had broken the curse and freed the spirit that had haunted me for so long. But as I looked out over the fields, I knew that this was just the beginning. There were more stories to uncover, more shadows to confront, and I was determined to face whatever darkness lay ahead. As autumn deepened into winter, the nights grew longer and the air became crisp. The harvest had come and gone, and with it, a strange sense of calm settled over my farm. The shadows seemed to retreat, leaving behind an air of tranquility that I hadn't felt in months. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else lurked just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sun set, I noticed the old scarecrow in the far corner of the field. It had been there for years, a ragged figure with a crooked smile and hollow eyes made of burlap. I had always thought it was just a silly relic of the past, a harmless decoration. But ever since I had encountered the woman in the barn, I couldn't help but feel that there was something more to it. As darkness fell, I decided to investigate the scarecrow. The night was eerily silent, the only sounds being the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Armed with my flashlight, I made my way across the field, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. When I reached the scarecrow, I studied it closely. Its straw-filled body was tattered and worn, and its face was a twisted mask of despair. A chill ran down my spine as I looked into its empty eyes. There was something unsettling about it, a sense of foreboding that sent shivers through me. "Why do you feel so alive?" I murmured, half jokingly, half seriously. As if in response, a gust of wind swept through the field, rustling the cornstalks and sending a shiver through the scarecrow. I stepped back, feeling an inexplicable urge to flee, but something compelled me to stay. I reached out, brushing my fingers against the rough fabric of its face. Suddenly, a low whisper filled the air, chilling me to the bone. "Help me." I stumbled back, my heart racing. "What the hell was that?" I whispered to myself, scanning the darkness for any signs of life. But I was alone, at least that's what I thought. "Free me," the voice echoed again, this time louder and more insistent. "What do you want?" I shouted, trying to sound brave despite the fear knotting in my stomach. The scarecrow's form began to shift, and I felt an energy radiating from it, pulling me closer. "I have been bound to this land," it said, its voice a low rumble. "I am more than a mere guardian of the crops. I am a protector, cursed to remain here until my task is complete." "What task?" I asked, confused. "The shadows that linger are drawn to the sorrow of this land. They feed on it, growing stronger with each passing season. You must confront them and release me from my duty," it explained, its voice trembling with urgency. I felt a strange connection to the scarecrow, an understanding that ran deeper than words. "How do I do that?" "The melody," it replied. "It is the key to unlocking the truth. You must find it once more and let it guide you to the source of the darkness." With that, the wind howled around me, and the scarecrow fell silent, its eyes seemingly watching me as I stood frozen in place. My mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear. I had to follow the melody again, to uncover the secrets buried deep within the land. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, tossing and turning as the voice of the scarecrow echoed in my mind. The next morning, I set out to search for the melody, determined to uncover the truth behind the darkness that haunted my land. Days passed, and each evening, I found myself wandering the fields, listening for the familiar tune. But it was elusive, slipping through my fingers like sand. Frustration bubbled within me, but I refused to give up. One night, as the full moon cast its silver glow over the landscape, I heard it, a soft, lilting melody rising through the air. I felt a rush of hope and fear as I followed the sound, my heart pounding with anticipation. The music swirled around me, guiding me toward the heart of the cornfield, and I knew this time I would discover the truth. As I ventured deeper into the field, the melody grew louder, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I closed my eyes and let it lead me, feeling the shadows shift and swirl around me. The air was charged with energy, and I knew I was close. Suddenly, the music stopped, and I found myself standing before an ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching toward the sky. I could feel a pulse of energy emanating from it, and my heart raced as I approached. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing in the stillness. The air shimmered, and a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with flowing hair, her face a mirror of the scarecrow's warning. "You've come," she said, her voice soft yet powerful. "I am the guardian of this land, and you are the chosen one." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "The shadows are drawn to the pain of this land, and they grow stronger with each passing year. You must confront them and set me free," she explained, her eyes piercing through me. "But how?" I whispered, feeling a sense of helplessness wash over me. "Listen to the melody," she urged. "It will guide you to the source of the darkness. You must face it and release the sorrow that binds me." As her words sank in, I realized what I had to do. I closed my eyes and concentrated on the melody, allowing it to flow through me. I felt a warmth spreading from my heart, a flicker of light that cut through the shadows. When I opened my eyes, the shadows began to swirl, coiling around me like tendrils of smoke. I felt a surge of fear, but I refused to back down. I reached out to the darkness, willing it to release its grip on the land. "Let her go!" I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos. The shadows hissed and writhed, but I pressed on, drawing strength from the melody that still echoed in my mind. Slowly, the darkness began to recede, shrinking back until it dissolved into nothingness. With a final surge of energy, the woman stepped forward, her form radiant and free. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice echoing in the night. "You have released me." As the last remnants of darkness faded, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over me. The shadows that had haunted my land for so long were gone, and the melody filled the air with a beautiful harmony. The oak tree shimmered with a golden light, and I knew that I had broken the curse that had bound the land for so long. The air felt lighter, and the stars twinkled above, casting a serene glow over the fields. But as I looked out over the landscape, I knew that this was just one part of a much larger journey. There were still more shadows to confront, more secrets to uncover, and I was determined to face whatever darkness lay ahead, guided by the melody that would forever be intertwined with my fate. With the curse of the barn and the shadows lifted, I hoped life would return to normal. However, the whispers of the past lingered in the air like a distant memory, refusing to fade completely. The land felt lighter, yet I knew that the journey was far from over. It was as if each victory unearthed new layers of darkness, and I had yet to uncover the heart of it all. As winter approached, I found myself drawn to the woods bordering my farm, a thick, sprawling forest that had always been a source of mystery and intrigue. The trees towered above, their gnarled branches twisting together to create a canopy that filtered the light. I had often heard tales of strange happenings in those woods, stories shared in hushed tones by farmers around the dinner table. One cold evening, curiosity got the better of me. Armed with my flashlight and a sense of trepidation, I ventured into the woods, the chill of the air wrapping around me like a cloak. As I stepped into the shadows of the trees, the world outside faded away, and the whispering winds filled my ears. "Help! Me!" The voice was soft, almost a gentle breeze brushing against my skin. My heart raced as I followed the sound, weaving through the trees, their trunks rising like ancient sentinels watching over me. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath me was saturated with the weight of countless secrets. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to steady my voice, but the only response was the rustling of leaves, a low murmur that sent chills down my spine. The deeper I went into the woods, the more the whispers intensified, swirling around me like a tempest. It was then that I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an old stone well, its surface covered in vines and moss. The whispers grew louder, echoing from the depths of the well, beckoning me closer. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling as I approached the well's edge. "Help. Me." I peered over the edge, my flashlight illuminating the dark, damp walls. The voice grew more insistent, filling the air with an urgency that pierced through my fear. "Please, you must listen." "Who are you?" I called down, my heart pounding in my chest. "I am the spirit of the woods," the voice echoed back, filled with sorrow. "I was once a guardian, but I am trapped here, bound by the darkness that has seeped into this land. You must free me." "How do I do that?" I shouted, desperate for answers. "You must confront the source of the darkness, the entity that binds me. It is hidden deep within these woods, lurking in the shadows," the voice explained. "You must find it, or I will remain trapped forever." Determination surged through me as I stepped back from the well. I would not leave this spirit to suffer alone. I had come too far in my journey to turn back now. I had faced shadows before, and I was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Guided by the whispers, I delved deeper into the woods. The trees loomed larger, their branches casting eerie shapes against the moonlight. The air grew colder, and the whispers became a chorus, filling my mind with fragmented thoughts and images, memories of pain and loss. As I ventured further, the atmosphere thickened, the shadows seeming to stretch and writhe as if alive. The darkness coiled around me, but I pressed on, each step echoing with purpose. I knew I had to face the source of this malevolence, to bring light into the shadows that had held sway for far too long. Finally, I arrived at a clearing where the trees parted to reveal an ancient stone altar. It was overgrown with weeds, but the air around it crackled with energy. I felt a pull toward the altar, an instinct guiding me to its center. "Release me," the whispers urged, growing more frantic as I approached. I reached out, placing my hands on the cool stone surface. As I did, a wave of energy surged through me, and the whispers grew deafening. "Face the darkness," they cried, a cacophony of voices urging me forward. I closed my eyes, centering myself as the shadows coiled around the altar, forming into a dark figure. It was amorphous, shifting and writhing as if made of smoke and despair. "Who dares disturb my domain?" it hissed, its voice a sinister whisper that sent chills down my spine. "I am here to free the spirit of the woods," I shouted, my voice steady despite the fear gripping my heart. "I will not let you keep it bound to this darkness." "Foolish mortal," it screeched, the shadows swirling around me. "You cannot hope to defeat me. I am the embodiment of sorrow, and I will consume you." The darkness surged forward, and I could feel its weight pressing against me, suffocating. But I remembered the melody, the light that had guided me before. I focused on it, summoning the warmth that had filled me in the barn. "Leave this place," I shouted, the light emanating from within me. "You have no power here." As the light surged, it clashed against the shadows, illuminating the clearing. The darkness recoiled, hissing in rage. I pressed on, channeling my energy into the light, willing it to break through the shadows. "Release the spirit," I cried, feeling the energy of the woods surge around me. With a final surge of power, the darkness erupted, shattering like glass. The shadows dissipated, swirling into the night, and the air felt lighter, the whispers fading into a gentle breeze. In the wake of the confrontation, the spirit of the woods emerged, a shimmering figure bathed in moonlight. "You have freed me," it said, its voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for your bravery." As the spirit faded into the night, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The woods felt alive, the air filled with a sense of renewal. I had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, breaking yet another curse that had plagued the land. But as I made my way back through the woods, I knew that my journey was not yet over. Shadows still lingered, waiting for their chance to reclaim the light. And I would be ready to confront them, guided by the whispers of the past and the melodies of hope. As winter descended upon Kansas, the world outside transformed into a breathtaking wonderland of snow and ice. Yet, while the landscape looked peaceful, I could feel the tension in the air. The shadows I had encountered in the barn, the woods, and the fields still lingered, each whisper echoing in my mind, a reminder that my journey was far from over. With each passing day, the unease grew, a palpable energy that crackled beneath the surface of my farm. The spirits I had encountered had been freed, but I sensed a darker presence gathering strength, waiting for the right moment to strike. I couldn't shake the feeling that the true source of the darkness still remained, hidden just out of reach. One evening, as I sat by the fire, I recalled the scarecrow's words, "You must confront the darkness to free me." Those words echoed in my mind, urging me to uncover the truth. I felt a compulsion to return to the fields, to seek answers in the shadows that had haunted me for so long. As I stepped outside, the night air was sharp and cold, each breath a cloud of mist. The snow crunched beneath my boots as I made my way to the field where the scarecrow stood vigil. It loomed in the distance, a solitary figure against the white landscape, its once ragged form now a beacon of resilience. As I approached, I felt a familiar energy pulsing around me, a mixture of hope and foreboding. "I have come," I called out, my voice steady despite the chill in the air. "I need your guidance." The scarecrow's eyes seemed to flicker with light, and I felt a surge of warmth wash over me. "You are brave to return," it said, its voice a low rumble. "But the darkness has not been vanquished. It waits for you, hiding in the corners of your mind." "What do I need to do?" I asked, determination rising within me. "You must confront the entity that binds this darkness," it replied, the air around us growing heavy with anticipation. "It feeds on fear and sorrow, and only you can break its hold. You must return to the well, to the heart of the woods." Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself for the journey ahead. I felt the weight of countless stories behind me, of spirits released and shadows confronted. I had come too far to back down now. I made my way back through the woods, the moonlight guiding my path as I retraced my steps to the well. The whispers echoed around me, weaving through the trees, and I felt the pull of the darkness intensifying with each step. When I arrived at the well, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The air crackled with energy, and I could hear the low rumble of the entity lurking beneath. "You've returned," it hissed, its voice a sinister whisper that curled around me like smoke. "You think you can defeat me? I am eternal. I am here to free this land," I shouted, my voice rising above the shadows. "You have no power over me." As the darkness surged forward, I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of the light I had summoned fill me. I remembered the melodies of hope that had guided me through each confrontation, the spirits I had released, and the light that had pierced through the darkness. "Your time is over," I cried, summoning the strength within me. "I will not let you bind this land any longer." The shadows coiled around me, trying to suffocate my resolve, but I pressed on. I reached deep within myself, allowing the light to shine brighter, illuminating the darkness surrounding me. "Release your grip," I shouted, the energy radiating from me in waves. The shadows writhed and screamed, trying to pull me back into the void, but I wouldn't yield. I had faced my fears, confronted the pain of the past, and I would not be defeated now. With a final surge of power, I unleashed the light, sending it cascading through the clearing. The darkness shattered like glass, dissipating into the night, and the whispers transformed into a symphony of relief and gratitude. As the shadows faded away, I felt the presence of the spirit of the woods beside me, its form radiant and free. "You have broken the chains that bound this land," it said, its voice echoing in the silence. "Thank you for your bravery." In that moment, I felt a wave of peace wash over me. The burden of darkness lifted. I had faced the shadows that had haunted my land, and I had emerged victorious. The air felt lighter, the whispers of the past replaced by a gentle breeze that carried hope and renewal. But as I looked out into the night, I knew this was not an end, but a beginning. There would always be shadows lurking, waiting for their chance to reclaim the light. And I was ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead, guided by the melodies of hope and the spirits of those I had freed. In the quiet of the night, as I made my way back home, I knew that I would continue to uncover the stories of the land, to confront the darkness and bring light into the shadows. And with each step, I felt a sense of purpose, a determination to carry the light forward, to honor the whispers of the past, and to embrace the journey that lay ahead.